The mare walks alone in a desolate field, her once majestic body now thin and scarred. She moves with caution, each step betraying the pain of her past. Abandoned by her previous owners, she has been left to fend for herself. Her coat, dull and matted, tells the story of neglect. Yet, despite the marks of hardship, her spirit remains unbroken. Her eyes, though weary, still hold a quiet strength as she scans the empty horizon. Elsewhere, John, a grieving father, struggles to hold his family together. The loss of his wife has left a hole in their home that nothing seems to fill. His eyes, once full of life, now seem distant. His daughter, Eva, carries her own quiet sorrow. She feels the absence of her mother in every moment, though she hides it behind a wall of silence. Ben, the youngest, is unaware of the depth of their pain but senses the emptiness that surrounds them. In an attempt to heal, John moves the family to a rural property. He believes the quiet, away from their old life, will bring peace. But for Eva, it's not so simple. The change stirs a mix of hope and uncertainty within her. She doesn't know if leaving behind the memories will help or make the ache worse. But John is determined. He believes this is their chance to start anew. Eva has always found comfort in animals. They don't judge her or force her to move on. Her mother shared this love for animals, and now, in their absence, animals are the only things that seem to understand her grief. Eva spends her days tending to the creatures around her, seeking solace in their presence, though it's a quiet kind of sadness that lingers with her. One day, while wandering the property, Eva stumbles upon the mare. The mare's frail form and haunted eyes immediately capture Eva's attention. She can see the mare's pain mirrored in her own. Eva's heart aches with recognition. The mare is broken, abandoned, but still fighting to survive. Eva feels an overwhelming urge to help, seeing a chance to heal by offering care to this creature who understands loss as she does. Eva knows her father won't easily agree to help the mare. He's already overwhelmed by grief, and the thought of taking on another responsibility seems impossible. But Eva can't turn away. The mare represents something she's lost, her mother, and perhaps, if she helps, she can begin to heal too. She resolves to talk to her father, to convince him that this is something they need to do together, even if it's difficult. After much persuasion, John agrees to help. It's a reluctant decision, born from his exhaustion and his own emotional turmoil. He's not ready for this, but he sees the determination in Eva's eyes, and something in him softens. He nods slowly, a sign of his acceptance, though it's clear that he doesn't fully understand how much this means. Yet, for the first time, he makes a decision that isn't about his own grief. As the days pass, the family works together to care for the mare. John, though still distant, begins to help Eva, and a quiet understanding grows between them. Eva, too, begins to see a spark of hope in her father's actions. The mare, once abandoned, now has a family that is slowly learning to heal. For them, she represents a second chance, a way to rebuild, to love again, and to find peace. Eva wandered the edge of the property, her boots crunching softly on the dry ground. The air was heavy with the weight of loss, the silence of the vast land almost suffocating. But then, she saw it, there, in the distance, something moving. At first, she thought it was just a trick of the light, but as she drew closer, her heart sank. A mare, emaciated and weak, stumbled slowly across the field. Her coat was matted and dirty, her legs shaky. Eva's breath caught in her throat. She had seen that look before. This was a creature in pain, and the ache in the mare's eyes mirrored her own. Eva's hands trembled as she approached the horse, instinctively knowing that this was more than just an injured animal. She saw the scarred body, the weariness in the mare's movements, and her heart broke. She had felt this way, alone, abandoned, broken. It was as if the mare was a reflection of everything Eva had been trying to bury, her grief, her sadness, her fear that her mother was gone forever. She reached out a hand slowly, not wanting to startle the mare. The mare flinched but didn't back away. Something in Eva's chest tightened as she whispered, "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The mare let out a soft whicker, her head lowering as if she understood, and Eva felt the tiniest flicker of hope. She had found something that needed her, something that understood the depths of her sorrow. She wasn't alone anymore. Not in this moment. Eva knew what she had to do. She couldn't leave the mare here, not after what she had seen. She turned back to the house, determination in her step. She couldn't bear the thought of the mare, abandoned and unloved, left to suffer. But as she entered the house and found her father, John, seated at the kitchen table, staring into nothingness, her heart dropped. "Dad," she began, her voice shaking with urgency, "you have to come see something." John didn't look up. His grief had settled deep inside him, like a shadow that refused to lift. He'd barely spoken since her mother's death, lost in his own world of sorrow. "Dad, please," Eva pressed, her voice desperate. "There's a mare outside. She's hurt, she needs help." John's eyes flickered briefly toward her, his face weary. "Eva, we can't afford another animal right now. We're barely holding it together as it is." "But, Dad," Eva's voice cracked, "she's not just an animal. She's just like me. She's lost. And I think we could help each other." John rubbed his face, clearly torn. He had always been practical, always focused on survival. Taking in another creature was a risk he didn't know if they could afford. But when he looked at Eva, standing there so passionately, he saw something that reminded him of the woman he had lost, his wife. It was the same fierce determination, the same tenderness. Eva's eyes glistened as she added, "Please, Dad. I can't keep pretending that I'm okay. Maybe helping her, caring for her, can help me heal. Maybe it can help us both." John hesitated, his mind whirling. The weight of the last few months, the death of his wife, the overwhelming responsibility of raising 2 children alone, made him want to shut it all out. But he saw the vulnerability in Eva's eyes, the same vulnerability he felt in his own heart. She needed this. They both needed this. "All right," he finally said, his voice heavy. "We'll help her. But don't expect it to be easy." Eva's heart swelled with a quiet relief. She had won. But as they approached the mare together, John's fears were immediately apparent. The mare's eyes darted nervously at his presence, and she backed away, her body tense. She was afraid of men. John stiffened, the rejection cutting deep. He had expected it, he knew how animals could be. But the feeling of being shut out by the mare was almost too much. It was like the world itself was rejecting him. His hand trembled as he reached out, but the mare bolted, her hooves pounding against the earth as she ran. "Dad," Eva said softly, her voice full of understanding, "she's not rejecting you. She's just scared." John paused, his face contorted with frustration. "I don't know if I can do this," he muttered, more to himself than to Eva. The fear of failure was overwhelming, and it wasn't just about the mare. It was about everything, the family, his role, his ability to keep them together. But Eva, with her quiet strength, stepped forward, her voice gentle. "I'll try. Let me get closer." With time, patience, and unwavering compassion, Eva gained the mare's trust, speaking softly and moving slowly. As the days passed, the mare began to approach her more willingly, and in those moments, Eva found a piece of herself she hadn't known was missing. John watched from a distance, his heart conflicted. Seeing Eva so gentle, so determined to care for the mare, made him feel something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in months, a glimmer of hope. Maybe this was how they would begin to heal. Maybe this was the first step. He approached the mare again, hesitantly. She didn't run this time. Instead, she stood still, watching him with those soft, trusting eyes. John reached out, and this time, he didn't pull away. The bond wasn't instant, and it wasn't perfect. But slowly, with each passing day, John started to understand that the mare's fear and trauma weren't so different from his own. Maybe, just maybe, they could heal together. Eva's heart raced as she gently approached the mare, her soft hooves making faint sounds on the dirt. The mare's thin coat barely covered the scars beneath, signs of wounds that didn't match the exhaustion of her present state. It was as if the mare's body had a hidden story, one of pain, suffering, and neglect. Eva ran her fingers over the rough patches of fur, her breath catching as she felt a series of marks along the mare's flank. These weren't just bruises, they were deep, old scars, deliberately hidden beneath the coat. Eva's curiosity bloomed, and she felt an unsettling pull in her chest, as though the mare's past was somehow connected to her own sorrow. Each day, as Eva continued to care for the mare, their bond deepened. The mare's silent pain seemed to echo in Eva's own heart. She had lost her mother, and though her grief had felt overwhelming, Eva couldn't help but feel that the mare shared a similar, unspoken sorrow. There was something about the mare's eyes, sad, but holding a flicker of trust that made Eva want to protect her, to heal her. As she brushed the mare's coat, her hands shaking slightly, Eva could feel the mare's vulnerability. It was as if the mare was calling out to her, not just for help, but for companionship. Eva could no longer view the mare as just an animal, she was a kindred spirit, struggling with a history that mirrored her own grief. One afternoon, as Eva was grooming the mare, her fingers brushed against a peculiar marking, almost hidden under a patch of darker fur on the mare's neck. It was a symbol, an unusual brand she hadn't noticed before. Confused, she sought out a local expert, an older woman who knew a lot about horses. The woman's eyes widened when Eva mentioned the mark. "That's not just any mare," the expert said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "This one is from a bloodline of champion racers. Her father was a prized stallion from a wealthy family. They couldn't have just let her go like this, unless..." The pieces began to fall into place. The mare wasn't just any horse, she was valuable. The realization hit Eva like a thunderclap. The mare's tragic fate, tangled in her bloodline, made her even more vulnerable. The expert's words haunted Eva as she pieced together the mare's past. She learned that the mare had once been adored by a family, one that had raised her alongside their child. But when the child tragically died, the family couldn't bear the weight of the memories. The mare, once a symbol of joy and companionship, had become a painful reminder of their loss. Unable to cope, the family had abandoned her, unable to face the grief she evoked. Eva felt a deep, unspoken connection to the mare. She, too, knew what it was like to lose someone you loved so dearly. The mare's abandonment wasn't just physical, it was emotional, a rejection that ran deep. As Eva sat with the mare, the knowledge of her bloodline lingered in her mind like a dark cloud. She feared what would happen if anyone found out. The mare could be sold, used for racing, exploited for her worth. Eva's heart ached at the thought of the mare being torn from her, used like a tool for someone's gain. No, she couldn't let that happen. She had seen too much of herself in the mare, both of them were scarred by loss. But keeping the mare's secret felt like a burden. What was best for the mare? Was it better to keep her hidden, safe, and loved, or to risk the world finding out and taking her away? The weight of the secret began to wear on Eva. Every time she saw someone glance at the mare, she tensed, worried they would see what she had discovered. If they knew the mare's heritage, they might take her away. Eva's chest tightened at the thought. She wasn't sure if she could bear it if the mare was taken from her. She needed the mare, just as much as the mare needed her. But Eva also knew the responsibility was heavy. Keeping the secret felt like a heavy weight, one she didn't know if she could carry forever. The emotional toll of protecting the mare, and her secret, was wearing her down. One night, as Eva sat in the barn, the mare resting beside her, Eva thought about how much they were alike. Both of them were carrying wounds that no one could see, scars that ran deep. The mare's past mirrored Eva's grief, both were abandoned, left behind in ways that no one could truly understand. Eva had never fully faced her own pain, she had buried it, just like the mare's scars had been hidden beneath her coat. But now, with the mare beside her, Eva could no longer ignore it. The mare wasn't just a symbol of loss, she was Eva's own silent pain, a reflection of her struggle to heal. As the days passed, Eva noticed how much the mare seemed to trust her. Her once wary eyes softened, and she began to nuzzle Eva gently, her affection growing. Eva, in turn, began to feel a sense of peace she hadn't known since her mother's death. Caring for the mare gave her a sense of purpose, a reason to keep moving forward. They were both healing, slowly, together. Eva's hands, once trembling in grief, now moved with more confidence, brushing away the mare's dirt and fears, just as she was slowly brushing away her own. As Eva whispered to the mare that night, the promise in her heart was clear. She would protect the mare, no matter the cost. She had come to see the mare not just as an animal, but as a reflection of her own journey, one filled with loss, but also the potential for healing. Eva would keep the mare's secret, not out of fear, but out of love. And in that silent promise, Eva understood something new about herself. She wasn't just protecting the mare, she was protecting a part of herself. One afternoon, as Eva led the mare into the barn, a rancher approached her. His weathered face softened as he observed the mare's distinctive markings. "That's a fine mare you've got there," he said, his voice filled with quiet admiration. Eva felt uneasy. She was abandoned, she explained. The rancher knelt beside the mare, inspecting her closely. "She's got the bloodlines of a champion stallion. Her value is considerable." Eva's chest tightened. This mare wasn't just an animal to her, she was family. Yet the rancher saw only money, a commodity to be bought and sold. "I'll make you a fair offer," he continued, his eyes glinting. "She'd have a good life at my ranch." "No," Eva said, her voice firm. "She's not for sale." The rancher shrugged and walked away, but his words haunted her. The mare wasn't just a horse, she was a part of their lives. And now, she was being reduced to a transaction. That night, Eva tossed and turned, replaying the rancher's words in her mind. The mare had already suffered so much, and now, the idea of selling her felt like a betrayal. The rancher had promised care, but Eva could see through it, the mare wasn't a pet, but an asset to be exploited. Was she being selfish by wanting to keep her? Could the mare's future be better elsewhere, even if it meant giving up the only true connection she had left? Eva's heart ached with the weight of it all. Was keeping the mare the right choice, or was she letting emotions cloud her judgment? A few days later, John received an unexpected letter. It was from a prestigious horse farm that had heard about the mare's lineage and was offering a significant sum for her. The farm promised her a life of luxury as a breeding horse. John stared at the letter, his heart heavy. The money could solve their financial troubles. It would provide for Ben, secure their home, and give them a sense of stability after losing his wife. But the mare meant more to him than a paycheck. She represented hope, something that had begun to heal the family. Could he really let that go? Eva had overheard John's conversation with a neighbor. She knew what was at stake. The rancher's offer, the letter from the horse farm, they were both too tempting to ignore. Eva couldn't stand it any longer. "Dad," she said, her voice shaking, "you can't sell her." John looked at her, surprised. "Eva, you don't understand. This offer could change everything. We could finally be secure. We could move on from all this." "No." Eva cried. "She's not a thing you can sell. She's part of our family. You can't just give her away like that." John's face tightened, frustration creeping in. "We need this, Eva. I'm doing this for us, so we don't have to worry every day. You don't know what it's like to feel this weight." Eva's eyes filled with tears. "I do know. And I know that selling her won't fix anything." The room was filled with a silence that felt too heavy to bear. The tension between them was unbearable. As days passed, Eva's fear of losing the mare deepened. She couldn't imagine life without her. The mare had been her anchor, a reminder that despite everything they'd been through, there was still love, still something to hold on to. Each time she saw the mare, the dread of losing her consumed Eva. The mare wasn't just an animal, it was her connection to her mother, her family, and her own healing. The thought of her being sold to someone who saw her as nothing more than a prize was unbearable. She spent more time with the mare, trying to soothe her own fears by reaffirming their bond. But the fear of loss loomed over her every moment. John's mind was torn. The financial security the horse farm promised was hard to ignore. The stress of not being able to provide for his children, especially after losing his wife, weighed heavily on him. The mare could solve their problems, give them the peace they so desperately needed. But as the days wore on, John began to struggle with the choice. The mare had become a part of their family, a symbol of what they had been through and what they still had. Could he sell her and walk away from that connection? He wasn't sure anymore. The temptation to secure their future conflicted with the values he held dear, the ones that had kept them together after the loss of his wife. The tension between John and Eva was palpable. Eva became more distant, unable to look at her father without feeling betrayed. John, too, became quieter, more withdrawn. The weight of the decision pulled at him, and his focus shifted to the financial promise of the horse farm, ignoring the emotional toll it was taking on his family. Eva felt lost. The one person who had always protected her was now the one threatening to take away the only thing that kept her grounded. The strain between them deepened, pushing them further apart. One night, unable to keep her emotions bottled up any longer, Eva broke down. "You're going to sell her, aren't you?" she sobbed, her voice full of hurt. "You're going to sell the one thing that's helped us heal. The one thing that's kept us together." John's heart broke as he saw the pain in her eyes. "Eva, I'm doing this because I don't know what else to do. We need the money, we need the security." Eva's tears flowed freely. "But at what cost, Dad? What are we really going to gain? If we lose the mare, we lose everything we've been fighting for." The room was filled with the weight of their words, both unsure of what the right choice was. Eva withdrew, feeling alone and betrayed. The bond they shared was slipping through their fingers. John held the letter in his hands, his mind racing. The offer could change everything. But at what price? The mare had become a part of their healing, their hope. Was that worth more than financial security? Eva stood before him, her voice soft but firm. "Please, don't sell her. We've lost so much already. Don't make this the thing that breaks us." John's decision was still in the air, and the weight of it was unbearable. Eva's plea hung between them, her future and the mare's hanging in the balance. Eva couldn't take it anymore. The silent tension in the house had stretched far too long, especially over the mare. She knew what was at stake, the bond between her and her father, and she couldn't just stand by as he prepared to sell the horse. The mare had become her anchor, a symbol of what they'd fought through together, and now, her father wanted to let go of that connection for money. Eva felt betrayed. She'd always believed in the strength of their family, in the way they healed together, but now, it seemed like her father had lost sight of what truly mattered. She took a deep breath and walked to her father's study, determination in her steps. When she opened the door, John barely looked up. "Eva, what is it?" he asked, his voice distracted. She took a step inside, the words almost stuck in her throat. But when she finally spoke, her voice was steady, though filled with emotion. "Are you really going to sell her, Dad?" John blinked, caught off guard. "I'm doing what's best for us, Eva," he replied, his voice stiff. Eva shook her head. "It's not best. Not for me, and not for us. The mare, she's more than just a horse. She's what's been holding us together. She's been helping me heal, just like you should be." John's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. Eva pressed on, her emotions spilling out in a rush. She's not just an asset to be sold. She's a part of our journey. You're letting her go because you think it's the easy way to fix things. But it's not. The truth in her words struck John like a wave, and for the first time, he saw how much pain his decision was causing her. John stood up, his frustration bubbling over. You think I don't know that? His voice cracked, and he forced the words out. I've been trying to keep this family afloat, trying to do what's best for all of us. But I can't do it on my own. I need something that makes this easier. Eva's words hit home harder than he wanted to admit. His defensive anger crumbled for a moment, replaced by guilt. I didn't want to hurt you, Eva, he muttered, looking down. Eva softened, the anger fading. Then stop pretending money is the answer. We've already lost so much, Dad. You can't keep doing this. John's eyes lingered on Eva's tear-streaked face, and a wave of realization washed over him. The mare wasn't just a horse to Eva. She was a lifeline, a way to heal from the wounds of losing his wife. John's mind flashed to the mare, her quiet strength, and it became clear. She had become part of their healing journey, just like his late wife had been. I've been so focused on what I thought would fix everything, he whispered, his voice soft. But I see it now. We don't need money to heal. We need each other. We need her. The weight of his words hung in the air, and for the first time in a long while, he realized what truly mattered. Without another word, John stood, his decision firm now. We're not selling her. Eva blinked in disbelief before the flood of relief hit her all at once. She stepped forward, wrapping her arms around her father. Thank you, she whispered, her voice shaking. I knew you'd understand. John's heart felt lighter than it had in months. He had made the right choice, not just for Eva, but for their family, for their healing. He had let go of the fear that had driven him, the need for control. Instead, he had embraced what was truly important. As John held Eva close, he realized how much he had missed. In his pursuit of financial security, he had forgotten the one thing that had always kept them strong, their bond. I'm sorry, Eva, he said, his voice filled with regret. I've been distant. I haven't been there for you like I should have. But I see now that it's not just about making money. It's about being together, healing together. Eva nodded, her tears now a mixture of sadness and relief. I just needed you to see that, Dad. And in that moment, they both knew, the journey wasn't about the money. It was about finding their way back to each other. The mare would stay, a symbol of healing, and their family would begin anew. Together, John, Eva, and Ben agree that the mare is now part of their family. They decide to keep her, realizing her presence brings them comfort and strength. Eva and John care for the mare together, symbolizing their growing bond. John shows tenderness, and Eva feels a deeper connection with her father. As they care for the mare, they open up about their grief. The mare, once abandoned, reflects their own journey of healing and trust. The mare, now cared for, symbolizes second chances. Eva understands that healing is a gradual process, just like the mare's recovery. The family, united, faces the future with hope, knowing love, forgiveness, and emotional connection will guide their healing. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts below. How do you think second chances can change lives? Join our journey of healing and growth, and stay tuned for more heartfelt stories. Let's embrace hope and new beginnings together.